Hi there, Ciarán here. I hope you're well. So this week's Let's Listen with Ciarán McBreen is a different one. We're using my interview with Helen Farmer on Dubai Radio last week, where we discussed body image. We talk about how we compare our bodies to other people. We talk about that no matter what we do, we're still not content. So have a listen. It's up next. Thank you.
We're talking teens this hour, and a study came out just last week that showed that 2 in 3 parents say their child is self-conscious about the way they look, and many have noticed their child making negative comments about their appearance. So what can we do as parents? What can we be looking out for? How can we negate this? To find out more, joined now by Ciarán McBreen, who's a teen and parent mindset coach and educator at the Swiss School, and author and podcaster too. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit about the data around this, and we're going to be hearing other people's stories as well, Ciarán, but I'm curious to hear what your own body image was like as a teen, and maybe even now, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Yeah, first of all, Helen, thanks for having me, and thanks for addressing this really important topic.
It's a scary one, to be honest. As a parent, I find it a really scary one.
Yeah. I grew up hating my body.
Really?
Literally hating my body, my slim frame. I just hated it. You know, it's one of them situations where you want to be anything else but what you have. And it stayed with me. It stayed with me throughout adulthood. I'm still not fully satisfied, but now who is? You know,
I don't think anyone is.
And that's it, you know, so you kind of grow out of it. Mm. And I wish I could advise my 16-year-old self to say, look at Ciarán, don't worry about it. You know, you can only control what you can control. There's only so much push-ups I can do in the bedroom to try and change my physique that inevitably doesn't make that much of a difference, because it's your body. You know, we can train. We can eat, but it's your body. It's what we've been given, and we just have to work with that.
It's so hard because, I mean, I'm 40 now, and you know, when I think about what I was surrounded by as a teen, I would probably buy a magazine, maybe a couple of magazines a month. And you could see, you know, a bit of TV. I mean, I have to say Pamela Anderson didn't really help on a Saturday night. But there was my friends that I would compare myself to, and the odd kind of, you know, model in a magazine and a bit of TV. But it's nothing compared to what teens are up against now when we think about those constant comparisons, and not just comparisons in media, but unrealistic, false comparisons. And
this is the key. It's false. You know, it's we've highlighted before, Helen. It's the Instagram versus reality. Mm-hmm, it's what we see every day. We scroll, we like, we comment, whatever we do. But the reality is, it's not real, because it's photoshopped. It's whatever it is, but it's not real.
I know, but and we know that as, you know, somewhat social media savvy adults. But I mean, I still compare myself. I thought losing 45 kilos would make me happy and delighted with my body. And it has. I mean, I'm happier, but I'm not delighted. And then you try to talk to a teenager about it whose brain is not fully developed. It's just not. And how can you then have these conversations about what is real, what is realistic, about what attitude you should have and the love you should have for yourself and your body, when there's just so much up against you.
And it's so easily said now at our age, but we got to always bring ourselves back to when we were 16, 14, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We cannot tell a teenager how they should feel or should behave in a certain area that affected ourselves. You know, it's one of them things that you have to ride it out. Mm-hmm. It's experience. It's growing up. It's growing up and it's accepting. So
tell us then about the work that you've been doing, because I know you actually dedicated a whole chapter to teens and body image in your book, Listen Up, which is about teenage life and challenges and opportunities. And what were some of your findings through exploring that topic?
Yeah, so with mine, there was 48 countries involved in the research, and you know, I picked 2 students to do a one-to-one interview with on this topic. Body image was actually voted the third most challenge of the group of students involved in the research.
You know, I want to know what's 1 and 2.
Yeah, can you guess?
School.
Academic pressure.
Yeah.
Academic pressure, number 1, and anxiety, number 2.
Interesting.
Now, the anxiety one, obviously, body image would come into that as well, but body image was identified as up there with number 3. And there's two contrasting stories. One was Abraham, and Abraham was slim. Because he was slim, he was called skinny. He was academic, you know, so he wasn't involved in sports, and PE was a hard time for Abraham. One particular scene where he had to play rugby, and you know, the shorts wouldn't fit him, and the boys in the change room were laughing at him, and you know, this is a really detrimental effect on his long-lasting mental health. The sad thing about Abraham's story, Helen, was his own family, his aunts. "Hey boy, skinny," would be called, you know, skinny this, skinny that. And it used to break his heart. He couldn't understand why are they calling him skinny? It's not nice. It's simply not nice, you know. And if I can bring it to me for a second, I'm actually passionate about this word too, because it's not a nice word, you know. And you might call somebody skinny, but you don't call somebody fat. So why is it?
People do.
Oh, I don't know. Why is it okay to call somebody skinny and not fat? You know.
Well, I think it's often what triggers an individual. Yeah, I'm sure some people would love to be called skinny. I'm sure some people would love to say you've had weight put on, but so much of that is what you grow up with, what parents are putting onto you.
That's it.
And I think that's what kind of scares me as a parent, is like, how can I raise, maybe not like I'm so body positive I want to shout through the rooftops, but I want kids who are healthy and happy and secure and capable and just in the world and okay with it, you know. And I think that's a really, really big challenge, because as parents we are up against so much to try and get there.
Absolutely. And you know, so Abraham himself had a difficulty, and I do, with the term skinniness. Now the other story, Helen, was Fatima, who was on the larger side of things, and because she was large for her age, the girls in the changing room, would be giving her a hard time. She was developed more than other girls her age, and she was good at sport. She was up against the boys, and she was being successful in sport. But because she wasn't fitting in to the stereotypical,
like kind of that feminine,
absolutely, then she was giving a hard time, and she was called lots of nasty names, to unfortunately led to a suicide attempt. You know, so it's a very deep and heartbreaking story. You know.
This is a fantastic book for any, not just teens, but also parents of teens and parents of young children who are anticipating this chapter in their lives, chapters looking at different topics. So do check out Ciarán's book. We'll send you a link to that if you want it on 4001. Tina on the SMS saying, "I think puberty is hard, full stop. As a parent, I always compliment and appreciate my children. I never say negative comments to them, as I know their bodies are changing." No name on this one saying, "As the heaviest sibling, I hated the comparisons my parents and even teachers would make between me and my younger brother. I'm healthy now, but it was miserable at the time." We've got a number of questions we're going to go into as well, but Pam says, "I'm a grown woman and my mum still makes the odd comment about my weight, and that affects me even now. People have no idea how small words can have a big impact. And when these words are said continuously to a child or teen, they definitely carry this into adulthood." They're absolutely right, Pam. There are, of course, initiatives that support people fostering a healthy body image. The body positivity, body neutrality movement, more prominent than ever. And lots of celebrities are speaking about it. But kids are still struggling. And this week, the University of Michigan's C.S. Mott Children's Hospital published a national poll on children's health that highlighted the severity of body image issues amongst children and teens. They surveyed nationally in the US a sample of parents of at least one child aged between 8 and 18, and nearly 2/3 of parents said their child is self-conscious about some aspect of their appearance, with skin concerns like acne, weight and hair being the top issues reported. Joining us in the studio this afternoon to explore this a little bit more is Ciarán McBreen. He is a teacher, a parent and mindset coach, and an educator at the Swiss School. And Ciarán, it's an interesting time, last 24 hours, because we've just had news there that masks are no longer compulsory in schools. And I mean, I for one am delighted, and I know you personally are, but I wondered if you've picked up on any anxiety or reluctance from children, teens, to remove the mask related to body image.
Yeah, Helen, I'm a massive believer of opening up conversation. And this morning, the first thing I said to the students was, "How are you feeling about this?" You know, and it's something maybe parents need to ask their children, because it's not a happy time for everybody. You know, I had a student last year, Helen, who wouldn't swim, and I finally got to the bottom of it. And the reason was that she wouldn't take off her mask.
She was afraid.
She was afraid to take off her mask. Similar conversations were coming up this morning with my students. There's an element of comfort with the mask on, a protection element. The mask is literally a mask.
It's a barrier.
It's a barrier. And taking it off now is a big deal for many. And the wonderful thing is, I kept saying this morning, this is a choice. There's no pressure on anybody to do anything. We've all got a choice.
And I hope there isn't. I hope it's not going to become a point of, difference or belittling or bullying for someone to make that choice, whether that's an adult or a child in any environment across the UAE. And I hope parents and teachers are going to support their children
absolutely.
And also, if it is a point of anxiety, to understand the underlying cause of that might be manifesting in a behaviour of choosing to wear a mask for not COVID-related reasons.
This is it. If I think when I was a teenager, I used to get this acne down on my side of my face, and I would have loved to wear a mask to cover it up, But I know students and adults as well who got, dental work done because their face has been covered. Lots of braces in schools because it's a good time to get it.
Absolutely.
Now that's been exposed. So it's a very daunting time. So it's important that we're supportive tomorrow.
Well, which leads me to ask, what, if anything, is being done in school to address body image issues? The numbers there are really scary, to be honest, about how children, young people are feeling about their bodies. How is this being woven into curriculum or conversations? And I think the fact that you had that this morning is fantastic.
Yeah.
But is there anything official or not really?
Well, nothing official, but as teachers, we've got some amazing teachers. The education system here is fantastic. And teachers are so relatable to teenagers compared to when we were at school and the generation before. Lots of deep conversations take place, and that's where learning really takes place. Educating the child is the key. For us in physical and health education, the key is to educate about the body, about training methods. I love, there's a program we deliver in the health and fitness unit where the end task is to teach the students how they can create a training program at home in their bedroom. So no resources, no cost involved. So if this is the end result. This is what you can do yourself. This is what you can take control of. So educating for me is the massive thing, and bringing conversations alive. And what I love saying to students, I hated my body. Or if I see a student with braces, I had braces. Just giving that little, I have to do a walk every morning when I drop my child off into primary. And I make it my business to see at least 4 students that I compliment on the way to my office. And if that works, great. And if everybody's doing that, and even if we're doing it to adults, we're making the place a better place.
And I think there's a lot to be said for complimenting and bolstering away from appearance, away from, oh my goodness. It's also a very tricky line to tread when talking about appearance. But I think for me, it's that, talking to kids about social media, focusing less on that outward appearance, even if it is positive feedback. Talking about, things that they're doing great. And if they are struggling with that sense of body image, sometimes it is a phase, and sometimes it's much more critical. But to know that door is open for conversation as a teacher and as a parent. We've got lots of questions on this, Ciarán. We have run out of time. We're going to be catching up next with Florence Gillet. But if anyone does want to contact you about the coaching and getting hold of your book as well, can you offer us some tips there?
Yes, please reach out to me on Instagram, CMB Coach McBreen. And my book is available on all top bookstores and on Amazon and directly from me.
And for anyone who is struggling now themselves, if any teens are listening today and they're thinking, I can't even begin to imagine what it'd be like when I'm a grown up, and I can't wait for all this to be behind me, what would you say?
Firstly, I would say, tell your parents how you're feeling, because they can give you advice from experience. There's nothing as good as hindsight, so please don't suffer alone would be the number one thing I would say.
And to come back to that comparison piece, stop comparing yourself. And we've said this before, you've got the power to curate your social media. You can surround yourself by people that inspire you and lift you up and make you feel great. And it could be recipe inspiration, it could be sports people you admire. You don't need to follow people that make you feel rubbish.
Absolutely.